Richard Mumbi, your host today in the Business Insights webcasts that are coming to your screens every week. And I am very much excited with the response. It's all overwhelming what we are receiving. And please continue to subscribe to the channel so that you can be able to ensure that you do not miss any of these particular broadcasts as they come to your screens every week. And today I want to speak quickly on the things on a procurement strategy and basically the key ingredients of the procurement strategy, and ensure that these particular procurement strategies are actually aligned with the corporate strategies, as it were. So what are the ingredients of the corporate of the procurement strategy? Number one is definition of objectives. All right, definition of objectives is the foundation of every strategy, be it procurement, be it investment strategy, be it whatever strategy that you're working on. Definition of objectives becomes a foundation. So under the definition of the objectives, you are actually ensuring that you communicate clearly what your goals are in terms of procurement, and how these goals align actually with the corporate organization, the corporate objectives as well. Then you're also looking at key performance indicators. So in your objectives, these objectives are helping you to establish a matrix to measure success. So what matrix are you going to put in place to ensure that you measure the success? Because remember, a strategy must be able to actually lead you to success. So at the end of doing everything, you must be able to come to a place where you'll be able to say, okay, fine, I've achieved this, I've achieved that. That is what the purpose of a strategy. Then another key ingredient is the supplier relationship management. Under the supplier relationship management, you're talking about segmentation of your suppliers by categorizing suppliers based on their risk, value, and complexity. So all those are some of the things, because once you categorize them, once you actually segment them, it helps you to manage these particular suppliers in an effective and efficient manner. Then supplier selection and evaluation. What criteria are you going to use in terms of selecting your suppliers, in terms of assessing your suppliers? So all these things sit in your strategy. Then contract management. Okay, so under contract management, we are talking about how are we, the strategy, the procedure. Establishing the procedure that we are going to use for negotiating contracts, for managing these particular contracts, for renewing these particular contracts, and things like that. So these are very, very important under the supplier relationship management. As I've always emphasized, supplier relationship management is one of the most neglected strategy or strategic component when it comes to implementation of our procurement strategies. But once you manage your suppliers very well, definitely you are assured of actually getting the best from these particular suppliers. Then the other thing is, which is the third thing, is the sourcing and contracting aspect of the strategic component. So under this, you are looking at market research. How do you gather intelligence on suppliers? How do you gather intelligence on markets and the pricings that they are using? So basically, this is one of the most important things, because you'll be able to realize that different suppliers quote for the same item differently, and they also have their own explanations. But at the end of the day, how do you gather market research? How do you do your market research and your market intelligence for you to be able to make informed decisions? Then the sourcing strategies. On the sourcing strategies, what is the most effective approach that we can be able to use in terms of achieving our sourcing strategy? Is it competitive bidding? Is it selective bidding? Is it limited bidding? Is it sole source bidding, and all those issues, as it were? So under that, you'll be able to be informed, and you'll be able to make the correct and well-informed decision. Then the contract types as well is one of the things that you look at under the sourcing and contracting aspect. That is where you determine the most suitable contracts for each and every procurement that you undertake. So as they sit on the procurement plan there, you should be able to determine, okay, what type of a contract are we going to is applicable, and you begin to be ready to ensure that the contract terms and conditions begin to be negotiated. You can look at fixed price contract, you can look at cost plus contracts, you can look at service level, you can look at call off contracts and all those issues. So basically basically there are a number of strategies that you can be able to implement. Then the other aspect, which is the fourth one, I'm actually looking at, is what I call the risk management strategic component. Every strategy that you come up with in your business must be able to ensure that, firstly, it also has the component of risk management. Risk management is very important because every business, in whichever environment it's exposed to, there are potential risks. So you need to look at in our sphere of operations, in our spheres of our supply chain, what types of risks are there. So you are looking at risk identification and anticipating potential risks and also opportunities that may arise in the procurement process. Then you are also looking at what I call the risk assessment. This is where you are evaluating the likelihood of these particular risks and their impact, as you have identified the risks already. So that you actually come up with strategies on how you're going to now, which leads me to the next point, which is risk mitigation, how you're going to mitigate these particular risks, developing a strategy to minimize them or either eliminate these particular risks, as it were. So those are some of the strategic components in the procurement function that you must be able to ensure that you adopt. The other one, which is the fifth one, is what I call the sustainability and social responsibility aspect. So when you're talking about the sustainability issues, you are talking about the planet issues, the things that affect our profits, the things that affects the people around the businesses that we are undertaking. So you are looking at issues of environmental considerations, where you incorporate the eco-friendly practices and sustainable materials in your procurement strategy and in your procurements as well. So you're looking at issues of social responsibilities or corporate social responsibilities, as it will ensure fair labor practices and diversity, issues of inclusion, issues of equity. Those are very, very important under the sustainability and social responsibility. Then we are also looking at what we are calling what is a key component, is also another aspect of compliance. How do we adhere to the relevant laws and regulations, the policies that industries have put in place, and the standards that they have actually set for us to be able to ensure that we achieve the corporate goals. So we are looking at that under the sustainability and social responsibility aspect. Then the sixth one is the technology and innovation. I will never stop emphasizing on technology and innovation aspect when it comes to procurement. No matter what you're looking at, digital procurement tools are now the way to go, leveraging softwares and platforms to streamline our processes, data analysis, utilize data so that we utilize this particular data to inform our procurement decisions and measures. These are very, very important to ensure that we perform. Then innovation, encourage, we are talking about encouraging experimentation and adaptation or to new technologies and methods of doing our procurements. You cannot afford to maintain a status quo, so we can't be able to remain the same. Then number 7, I look at performance monitoring and evaluation. Okay, remember we talked about the issues of setting our objectives and setting our goals. So performance monitoring and evaluation becomes very key. So your KPIs, your key performance indicators that you had actually put in at the first stage, with the first point I had spoken to, they help you now to track, regularly monitor and report on performance matrices. So this now becomes a continuous process when all is said and done. Then from there, as you track your KPIs, you'll be able to be informed whether to implement continuous development or improvement, or to make some changes. So you will be able to identify areas of improvement and implement changes accordingly when you have you followed the other strategic components that I've actually highlighted on top. Then stakeholder engagement under the performance monitoring and evaluation becomes very key, because under stakeholder engagement we are talking about communication with all stakeholders. This is internal stakeholders. What strategy are we going to use to be communicating with the internal stakeholders? How are we going to be informing them external stakeholders, how are we going to be informing them, and many other stakeholders as it were. So you look at that, and you'll be able to ensure that your procurement strategy is well encompassing, and you'll be able to stand the test of time. So by incorporating all these ingredients, organization can develop a comprehensive procurement strategy, and they will be able to support the overall objectives and sustainable value of the organizations that they are working on. So this is our responsibility as procurement officers, as procurement professionals, wherever we are sitting, to ensure that we come up with, of course, a strong strategy. Definitely there are other considerations that we can be able to look at in terms of adapting or coming up with a strategy, and those will definitely be able to hear from you as you give your contributions, as you give your comments and everything, and from there we can be able to build up a stronger case for us to ensure that we are developing together. I am so glad and I am so thankful that you were able to take your time to listen to this particular week's podcast or webcast, as it were, and I'm looking forward to interacting with you on many other podcasts as we go on along this particular journey. Thank you so much. This was Richard Mumbi, your host.